The air inside the Navy auditorium was sharp with tension, the kind that clings to your skin and whispers that something's about to happen. Rows of uniformed officers sat stiff-backed beneath the banners of honor, the hum of whispered conversations filling the gaps between ceremonial speeches. Cameras flashed, recording what was supposed to be a moment of celebration, the annual commendation ceremony for the fleet's top-performing officers. But beneath the polished surface of pride and protocol, a storm was quietly brewing, and at its very center stood a woman whose calm face hid a past that even the highest ranks dared not speak of. Commander Evelyn Grant stood near the back of the stage, her posture flawless, her eyes steady on the Admiral giving his speech. She looked every bit the model officer, disciplined, composed, unshakably professional. To most, she was known as the quiet strategist who had saved hundreds during the Black Sea incident. But whispers followed her wherever she went, whispers of a mysterious call sign once feared across battlefields and skies alike. They said she had once been a combat pilot, one of the best, before vanishing from classified operations years ago. They said her call sign was Reaper 1. No one ever said it aloud, not because they didn't know, but because they didn't dare. Those who did never stayed long in uniform afterward. The Admiral on stage, however, was different. Vice Admiral Roland Hensley was a man who believed that power was best displayed through humiliation. And to him, Commander Grant was an anomaly he couldn't control, a woman too calm, too respected, too untouchable. It infuriated him. In private meetings, she had challenged him, corrected his tactical errors, and earned the loyalty of officers who once followed him blindly. He hated that her name was whispered with admiration while his drew resentment, and today he had planned to crush that image, to expose her in front of everyone. As the ceremony reached its peak, Hensley cleared his throat and smiled, that cruel, practiced smile that hid venom behind formality. "Before we move on," he began, "I'd like to recognize a certain officer whose past has always intrigued me." The crowd shifted uneasily. Evelyn's expression didn't change, but those who knew her sensed the slight tightening of her jaw. Hensley gestured toward her. "Commander Grant, would you step forward, please?" The auditorium spotlight followed her as she stepped out. Every eye turned. Her medals glimmered under the light, but her presence, calm, cold, and unshaken, carried more authority than all the ranks combined. Hensley smirked. "You've served admirably, Commander, truly. But some of us here have always wondered, who were you before you became the Navy's favorite strategist?" "What was that interesting little call sign they used to whisper about?" the audience murmured. The question was venomous, designed to humiliate. Evelyn's silence filled the hall with an electric weight. Then Hensley pressed on, his tone mocking. "Ah, yes. Wasn't it something like—" He didn't finish, because at that moment, the double doors at the back of the auditorium swung open, and the room fell dead silent. A group of senior officers entered, their uniforms marked with insignias few had ever seen in person. Among them was a man whose presence made even generals shift in their seats, a 4-star admiral with the kind of authority that could end careers with a single word. Behind him walked 2 decorated veterans, both legends of the elite Black Phantom unit, a team that officially didn't exist. They walked straight past the startled guards and approached the stage. Admiral Hensley's smirk faltered. The lead admiral stepped forward, his voice deep and cold. "Vice Admiral Hensley," he said, "stand down." The silence was absolute. Hensley's confusion turned to anger. "I'm conducting an official ceremony, Admiral, with respect." "You are overstepping your authority," the senior admiral interrupted sharply. "Commander Grant's file is classified under Operation Reaper. You are not cleared to speak her name, her record, or her call sign." Hensley's face went pale. The audience froze, realizing something monumental was unfolding before them. The older admiral turned to Evelyn, his expression softening just slightly. "Permission to speak freely, Reaper 1, he said quietly. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The words hit like thunder. Reaper 1. The call sign that was never supposed to be spoken, now said with reverence. The rumors were true. Evelyn Grant, the quiet strategist, had been the ghost pilot who had flown missions no one survived but her. The one who single-handedly dismantled an enemy air wing to save her squadron. The one who vanished after a classified operation that ended a war before it began. She was the legend that even enemies whispered about, the Reaper who came from the skies. Evelyn didn't move for a moment. Then slowly she turned her eyes toward Hensley. There was no anger in her gaze, only quiet disappointment. "You wanted to expose a ghost, Admiral," she said softly. "But ghosts don't fear the living." The senior admiral looked back at Hensley. "Vice Admiral Roland Hensley," he said in an iron tone. "You are hereby relieved of duty pending formal investigation for unauthorized breach of classified information and conduct unbecoming an officer." Hensley tried to protest, but the guards were already moving. His words dissolved into the stunned silence of the hall as he was escorted out. The crowd didn't clap, not because they didn't want to, but because they were still frozen, realizing they had just witnessed the fall of a man who had tried to humiliate a legend. The senior admiral saluted Evelyn, and the entire room, one by one, followed suit. Officers, cadets, even generals stood and saluted her, not out of protocol but respect. Some had tears in their eyes. Evelyn stood silently, returning the salute, then lowered her hand with the quiet grace of someone who had seen too much war to ever crave applause. The ghosts of the past lingered in her eyes, the kind that never really fade, no matter how many medals are pinned on your chest. Afterward, she walked out into the open air, away from the stage lights and the whispers. The night breeze was cool against her face. She looked up at the sky, where endless, dark, and calm. Somewhere out there, in the quiet vastness above, the call sign Reaper 1 still echoed, not as a threat, but as a reminder of sacrifice, courage, and the price of silence. That night, every officer who had been present left the hall changed. They had witnessed more than a scandal. They had witnessed the truth of what real strength looks like. Not the loud kind that shouts for attention, but the kind that stands calm while the world shakes. The kind that earns respect not by fear but by grace. And Evelyn Grant, the woman once called Reaper 1, walked away without a word, leaving behind only her legend and the silence of awe. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel the quiet power of courage, dignity, and respect, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps these real and inspired stories of strength continue to reach those who need them most. Special request: in the comments, share what true honor means to you. Your words might inspire someone who's fighting their own silent battles tonight.